Our breaking news tonight, a dragnet in northern New York State for two convicted murderers, I should say, who broke out of prison this weekend. Joined now by Chris Swecker. He's a former assistant director of the FBI who led the team that captured Eric Rudolph, the man who bombed the Atlanta Olympics in 1996. Also, Larry Levine is a former federal inmate who spent 10 years in prison. He's the director and the founder of Wall Street Prison Consultants. And Casey Jordan is with us as well. Casey is a criminologist. Good to have all of you on this evening. This is really unbelievable. Yeah. And I'm sure you guys heard the interview I did with Dog the Bounty Hunter earlier, saying he's never seen anything like it. Chris, to you first. You led that team that we talked about that captured Eric Rudolph, the Olympic bomber. Do you think that these murders are still in the area? Did they split up?
I doubt very seriously, Don, if they're in the area. I agree with Dog that somebody probably picked them up pretty quickly from that manhole location. It wouldn't make a lot of sense for them to have struck out on foot once they went through the lengths that they did to get out of there and then go hide in the woods. I think they had somebody there, probably someone they cultivated who is possibly related to someone inside the prison.
So the best person who picked them up is someone you think is related to not them but someone else inside the prison?
Well, in this instance, it's not hard to compromise prison employees, and there's been a suggestion that one insider possibly helped them out. Well, if that's the case, then that person probably lined up some outside people to help out with this. And of course, they have their own network. Their cell phone calls will tell you what their social network looks like, who visited them, where they've been in the past. This will be an entire dissection of everything they've done over the last 30 years.
Okay. To you, Larry. Larry, you're an expert on prison security guards. Prison security guards didn't know that they were missing for possibly up to 7 hours. How does that happen?
Well, at night they put the clothes on their bunks and they created like a mannequin in the bed, and count time comes around about 7 o'clock in the morning. So it's a stand-up count, and nobody realized until that time that they weren't there. Mm-hmm. And I talked to some of my associates who've been in Clinton, who've been in the honor dorm, the honor unit where they were at, and apparently the staff, when they come by in the middle of the night, they're lackadaisical. They're not checking to see if someone's there. They're maybe walking by, shining a flashlight in, but they're not checking. And when count time comes around, I'm told a lot of the inmates don't even stand. So it looks like the staff has been there possibly for a long time. They call that homesteading. The staff has become complacent in their jobs. They should have realized something was out of place.
Yeah. That's because no one has ever escaped before, and because are these the prisoners who are on best behavior so far, so they may be a little bit more lax with them?
Well, in an honor unit, you have more privileges than normal inmates, but a point was made before by the FBI director as far as monitoring their calls. Mm-hmm. Well, if these guys had access to power tools and they were doing this, planning for their escape for this long, they had cell phones. They were using secure communications. Mm. So any real information they're going to get by monitoring their calls is all a window dressing. I mean, if I were these guys and I'm out on the run right now, I would be calling in information or having people give sighting information on me thousands of miles away just to lead the FBI or the marshals off my tracks. They're not stupid.
Are they disguised? They plan their disguise?
I think they planned it for a long time, like the director said. I mean, they know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Will they be caught? Probably. And when they get caught, I don't think they're going to be taken into custody. They're going to hold court right there on the highway. Yeah. And the cops are going to render a verdict with an M16. Yeah. Show's over.
That's what Dog said, that they're going to hold court right where they find them. A female prisoner, Casey, an employee, I should say, who worked with them in the tailoring shop is being interrogated about the escape. How often do women get manipulated by men like these?
You know, I don't want to admit that it happens, but I know women who've met men in prisons working there and fallen in love and quit their jobs and married them when they got out. So we call this very often hybristophilia. It is this psychological phenomenon where women are attracted to a bad boy, and sometimes the worse he is, the more deep the attraction. And a lot of these women think that they are the only one who understands him and that he's reformed and that they can help him or rescue him. They get him and nobody else does. And so I am laying odds that this female employee who worked with them tailoring clothes or something in some prison industry is going to be the link, because they could not have done this on their own. But I'm sure prison officials are listening to all the phone calls. Hopefully they were all recorded. And I'm very interested to know if family members were visiting them regularly. You do need, when you have someone come and visit you in a prison, I've interviewed hundreds of prisoners in prisons, they talk to their wives, their girlfriends, their families, their mothers, and tell them all kinds of things which are not monitored. Those people can get to the outside, use the internet, make plans. Yeah. So they really need to look at the visitors list as well. But I do think the female employee is going to be the missing link.
Chris, I've heard Dog said it, and I think you guys have said it as well, that they had help. But how many people? I mean, are we talking hundreds, dozens, hundreds? How many people to help them out, both inside and outside of the prison?
Well, it's likely to be a very small group. These are pretty savvy people. They're not going to let a lot of people inside or outside into their plans. It only takes one or two, and I doubt very seriously if this is a big, broad network. I would suggest it's probably 1, 2, or 3 people.
Yeah. Well, Richard Matt escaped before, and it's surprising to me that he was in this honor part of the prison. So if he'd escaped before, what lessons, Chris, did he learn from that?
Well, I mean, he escaped from a prison that wasn't quite as secure as this maximum security, but I think what he learned was you can compromise people in prison. When you get on the run, you probably need to stay low. Do not move around. He probably spent a little too much time in public places down in Mexico showing himself. And I would also suggest that the fugitive investigation in the States probably identified his location down there.
Mm-hmm. Larry, I want to ask you, since you know this all too well in the short time that I have left, what's the lesson in all of this?
Maybe in an old institution like they're at, they need to upgrade the security, put shock sensors, motion sensors inside the walls. And the staff, they need to tighten things up. They need to tighten up their security protocols to ensure something like this won't happen again. And I have information, well, I know of inmates that actually had relationships with female staff members, and a lot of these female staff members are lonely women. They're not real attractive, and when they're on the inside and they're flirting with all these men, they make them feel special, and they can manipulate them. They can get them to do things. And the woman who worked in the tailor shop, I think that's what they identified her as, suppose she brought these power tools in.
Right.
She had them bundled up in some clothes, and some inmates are walking down through the honor dorm. Yeah. They have the power tools inside of the clothes. Nobody's going to be any wiser.
Yeah. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Chris. And thank you, Casey. I appreciate it. Coming up, Josh.